Welcome back to another exciting episode of Hobby Time in the Murder Basement, where somehow today I managed to interview Shoshie from Shoshie's Magnificent Miniatures. She is one of my all-time favorite commission miniature painters, and you should do well to get to know her a little bit. Stick around, we have an awesome conversation. Shoshie, thank you for joining me today in my murder basement. It is a real pleasure to murder basement. It's a real pleasure to talk with you. Without being completely fanboy, I have admired your work for a really long time, and I think that you are easily one of the best artistic brand miniature painter, specifically in your style of color choices and skin tones, and just like everything has this like heightened sense of drama to your work, and then you back it up with being like one of the sweetest people, and I'm completely in awe that I get to sit and talk with you today.
Thank you. It's funny to hear people say stuff like that, but yes, thank you.
Well, there's this weird thing that's happened with the birth of YouTube and the hobby merging, and like Twitch and hobby merging, that the characters are no longer so far apart, and so like you become a human really instantly, and anytime you sit in like on one of your streams and somebody follows you and you write their name on the piece of paper, like there's something about that is like really touching, because like you're every single time you do it, it's you're taking that time, even if it's a detriment. When you wrote my name down,
Well,
I did it while you were like painting eyeballs, and I felt really bad because I just like, oh, she's on, I'm gonna subscribe. The stream hadn't even really loaded yet, and you're like, Heath, I'm gonna write your name down later, and I was just like, oh my god, you don't even have to worry about it, I'm so sorry.
yeah, people really like that, but you know what? Because I used to be I used to substitute teach, so I'm really familiar with like how that dynamic works. And when I started streaming, I really noticed how much. So first of all, people who watch streaming, they love giving unsolicited advice, and
Right.
you can either get offended by that or you can take it and run with it. And I found that when I took it and ran with it and took their advice, or responded in a good way, that it did something. I can't quite explain it, but it worked. And so then I started doing some of my other teaching things, like writing people's name on the board. That's basically what that is. we would get that's what I would do. So when somebody would give me advice and it was good advice, I would give them stars in class. I would give them stars, and they loved it. Yeah.
It really brings this personal aspect to your stream, and it feels like I don't watch streaming often because I like the YouTube video where it feels like you're talking to me, because I'm selfish and I want full attention. And when you're split among a bunch of people, I start getting like but and it's just hard for me to stay in a stream for a long time. I always like popping in and just kind of like seeing what's going on. But like the 3-hour stream is impossible for me to sit through without being frustrated, unless I'm like hobbying. But I watched one time, you were like, community, what should I do with the cloak? I think I wanted like the Echoes of Death survivors or something. And they were like, orange. And I could tell you're like, great, orange. Like I hate painting orange. And then like you did it, and you like got way into it, and then all of a sudden this thing came out, and like you were at the end were like thanking them for their feedback, and I was like, that was a really expert way to navigate that water, because I don't know if I would have been able
That
to do
happens
it.
a lot. They help me so much. I actually finally got over that non-metallic metal hump because they were like, you know, we want to show us how to do it. And I'd taken so many classes from so many people on how to do non-metallic metal, but I still couldn't like grasp it, you know?
Sure.
And
Sure.
they were like, show us. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to show you, I think. And I did it. And then I was like, I get it now. And they got me over that. And I was like, so grateful. And then also I've done other things like that orange cloak where the dragon I was going to do for the crystal, or not crystal brush, but for the resin beast for this year's Adepticon. I was like, what color shall we make him? And they're like, gold and maroon. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this so it doesn't look like a trophy or a hood ornament, you know? But we did it and it rocks. And I'm so, you know.
That's funny. Did you post your photo to the creature community site to get feedback on it?
No. I think I posted some little, because like right in the lead up, I posted some teasers, and people were going nuts over that, just the teasers. It's a very big piece, so I'm having trouble photographing it all in one background.
Sure.
So I need to get some better photographs and then I'll post it.
I mean, that's a real problem when a model is just too big and you're like this is so fun to work on, but the practicality of it is like, how do I display it? How do I photograph it? How do I store it afterwards? Mm-hmm. Like, I have a couple of them where I'm like, I am in way over my head on this.
Yeah. One of the things I'm working on, every Thursday I have subscriber only streams. And so any of my moderators or VIPs and subscribers can watch that. And I'm working on a piece for myself. It's a 1/4 scale Han Solo vinyl garage kit. Yeah.
And the photo. I'm very excited about this.
It is exciting, and I'm really geeking out over it. And it's been really fun. And so that one is huge, and I have trouble with that one even streaming it because it's just so big. I have to back up my camera and I have to try to hold it while I'm painting.
Sure. I can't even imagine just the logistics of it because it's like 2 feet tall, right? It's big.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's really big.
That's amazing. Well, so I don't actually know your backstory a whole lot. I remember you vaguely saying that you did art school and all of that. How did you start artistically, and then like how did that transition into miniature painting?
So I think I don't know which came first, gaming or minis, gaming or art. Probably art, because I've been doing art since I was 5 years old. But I started playing D&D when I was like 10, and the red box set and everything. And let's see, went to art school. I thought I was going to be a comic book artist when I was in art school. I was a big ElfQuest nerd. And and then it just turned out I ended up wanting to do fine art. So I actually was a professional watercolorist for, from 2006 to 2013-14.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so then I had already been painting minis, because my husband got me into War Machine and stuff like that, but it wasn't serious. And then, like I said, my gallery closed in about 2013. That was representing me, and I had just gotten my Reaper Bones Kickstarter rewards, and I had rented a studio in downtown in my town, and I was supposed to be working on a new portfolio, so that way I could, get into a new gallery. And I got distracted by the Kickstarter stuff. Because I was like, I'll just earn my, because I spent $300 on the Kickstarter, which was the most I'd ever spent on miniatures ever. That's that's nothing now though. But
the value of that Reaper Kickstarter is crazy though. I just supported the last one, and I don't even paint Reaper minis. But I was like, I'm not going to miss out on this. I like all this stuff, specifically the overgourd. We need to get more big gourd energy in our life.
They get better and better every time they do a Kickstarter. So But yeah, so my original plan was just to earn back some money from the Kickstarter, and I threw some stuff up on eBay, and because I'm my background in sales, I kind of knew how to market to nerds already. And so I would write these really silly descriptions like this lich looks like Skeletor and he'll pwn your party, and like stuff, and people would buy it. And I think I knew I could make it as a miniature painter when I sold. It was the Reaper Kira from the Pathfinder cleric. Everybody has that character as an NPC in Pathfinder Society. And so I painted her up to look like the book art. And she ended up selling it to some guy in Tasmania for like over $100. And that was like, wow, the profit margin is so much better than it is for watercolor.
Right, right. So I'm a professional picture framer, and I
Yeah,
frame lots of watercolor, and that is a medium one that I'm very envious of, specifically because it's a difficult medium. If you don't protect the white, you end up with brown, and it's
right.
just like everything gets really muddy, and so you have to have forethought and composition in mind from the beginning, which is stuff that I am awful at. I like just like throwing paint on stuff and going, I don't like this, and just throwing paint over it. And so watercolor doesn't work for me in that. So first off, kudos for you for having that be your medium. That's crazy. Has the watercolor stuff, because you do work so thin in watercolors, did that translate for you to be able to paint minis in like the way that you work your glazes better that way, because you're already used to working that thin?
Yes and no. Because my style in watercolor is, if you know anything about watercolor, when you re-wet it, it forms a bloom, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that is often considered a mistake a lot of times, but I would try to get blooms in my art by putting salt down and different things like that. And so I developed a style in watercolor where I would embrace my mistakes and my, brush strokes or whatever. And that did translate to my minis. And so because I kind of embraced my imperfections in my own painting, that did translate to my miniatures. Now, miniatures is a very it has traditionally been a very exact, smooth blended, especially in America, style. And I just was like, screw that, I'm going to paint how I like. And if you see my brush strokes, that's cool because I like that. And I'm going to make that part of the art. And I have straight up been told that the way I paint is wrong and that's not good enough, you know?
Yeah. I remember zooming into one of your Kingdom Death models and seeing the brush strokes on like the face, like getting into the highlights, and it made my heart like sing. I was like, when everything's too smooth and too perfect, it feels, I don't know, like they feel weird to me. And it's not saying that they're bad.
Yeah.
I'm used to impasto and like
Yeah.
texture, and miniatures are the exact opposite of that. And while I get it in some respect, I also think that there is a lot of interpretation for more artistic, like the Van Gogh, just straight up, I'm hitting it with a big straight, thing of color and leaving that as your highlight. You don't have to, work a three-dimensional blend, because sometimes those parts, like especially if you focus in on one part being really detailed and everything else is a little loose, it just tells like this really beautiful visual story.
And that's what I try to, convey to people is just paint. You're going to get better just doing the practicing. Don't worry about the technical so much, just paint more. And yeah, I mean, learn along the way and push yourself always. And don't be afraid to borrow and take other techniques from other people, just so you have that tool when you need it. But don't feel like you have to just because somebody else says this is how you have to do it, or this is what you need to do to win a competition. The reason why competitions are so homogenized is because the same people who are winning them are always judging them, and they're picking the styles that they like. And so of course that's going to reinforce that's that's the look that's correct. It's not true.
Right. Yeah,
And I'll
that has
fight
been,
somebody. I've had to fight people about that, you know.
yeah. Well, I that's been one of my biggest like hangups on specifically like things like Golden Demon. I have been working on a Golden Demon piece up until the point that they canceled Adepticon, and I was like, I am so glad I don't have to work on this piece to like the GW standard, because I hate that look. I find it to be so like boring, and I've watched other people like play in the Golden Demons and do really cool things and not get as high because they aren't doing that heavy metal sort of style. And I don't know if I could emotionally handle working so hard and having like my efforts just kind of be like, well, you did a nice job, but this is what we're looking for. Yeah,
You
it
have to
just doesn't make
change the goalposts. You can't, if you're gonna not go with the status quo, you have to change the goalposts and not enter to win. You have to enter to show, and that's what I do. I hate competitions so much, but I enter them because I want to. So far, it's the only venue for, my work to be seen in a person, and
Of course.
so yeah, so I do it. But then I just let go of any expectations of what any judge is going to say or think, you know. But
So
I'll still listen to them, see if there's something that I can, learn to push myself. But if they say something, well, you need to do this and that, and it doesn't jive with what I know is already, because I paint to my temperament, and I am a
right.
very impatient person, and I cannot sit and glaze and glaze and glaze, you know.
Oh, it's insane. I'm right there with you. So do you think there's kind of a couple points there, and does entering into contests and getting like medals, is that like for you the level of like I have made it, I have these things, another notch in the belt to say I am this, or is it mainly for you to just experiment and see how far you can push somebody out of their comfort zone?
Yeah, when I do competitions, I usually look to challenge myself to try something I haven't. They always say don't try a new technique on a competition piece. I'm the opposite. I will
That's
almost all of my pieces, I've tried something new. I did a water pour one time, you know. I mean, this past Golden Demon, I had my Titan. I don't know if you saw that.
yeah,
It was a
yeah, the yellow one.
Yeah, so I tried yellow for the first time. I tried a vehicle for the first time. I tried stencils for the first time. I mean, there were so many different techniques, and I had a blast because I was
Sure.
challenged and I was interested in, and for me, it's like more about the learning. And I mean, if it got some recognition, that's gravy, but I'm not trying for that.
Sure, sure. And do you think that your art history makes you set up to navigate the constructive criticism of the awards better? Because I
Yeah.
find that people aren't necessarily ready to hear things like when they ask you, "What am I doing wrong? This isn't right." And then when you tell them what they're doing wrong, sometimes they get the feel badsies and their feelings hurt. And because I am used to the art community being like, I have clients that we are super direct with each other because we've been working together for 10 years, and I've straight up being like, I love this piece. You should not frame this piece. You should take this and do this over again. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, I think like you're wasting money on this one. This one will sell, this one will not. And
Wow.
and we have to be really sharp with each other because I am a stepping stone to their final product, and
Absolutely.
that is it's a really interesting place to be.
Yeah.
And I don't think miniature painters emotionally are set up for that yet.
So when you go through art school, all your classes will have a critique day where they rip you down. They tell you what they don't like, what they do like. They read into your piece like, stuff that you'd never think of, and you learn to not only take criticism but how to give it. And I definitely think that I don't see miniature painting really ever catching up with that.
Here in
That's
the
not kind of
States,
people we are, you know?
it seems like the Italians and the Spanish people are a little bit more traditionally artistically minded, but I don't see that being the focus here in the States. It
No,
seems it's very
art
different.
doesn't, art in general doesn't have the same value that it does in Europe.
No, it's very sad. So, how long have you been running your Shoshie's Magnificent Miniatures as like a commission and a um, as your
As a
sole
business.
yeah.
So I probably started in about 2013 or 14, but I went full time in 2015, and then I was able to actually quit substitute teaching about a year or two ago and do this absolutely full time. You know, so
That's a
it's my sole income now.
wow. And I noticed that sometimes you have your kids in the background and your husband's there and everything too.
Yeah,
Do-
I just
Is
had.
does that help out a lot, or do you find that that is something that makes it harder for you to do the streaming and the miniature painting?
Well, my daughter, she's 20 now. She moved out last year, so I don't really have to worry about that anymore. And my husband is sort of like the channel mascot on my Twitch, so they kind of love him, but they also like to troll him, and he trolls them, but he trolls me. That's why they love him. And so so no, and in fact, I think if he came on a lot more, it would be great for my channel. But sometimes he'll like space out or play games, and I'm like, you have to be on it or not, you know? So
Needs to be consistent here.
yeah, yeah.
So I've noticed that one of the things that brought me to you was I've only really been painting miniatures for about 2 years. I did no art growing up besides music. I was a musician, and I felt like I missed some things. And I was scrolling the internet one day, and I saw Gorm coming out, the little angler baby face with the hands, and I was like, I need this.
Yeah.
And so I sold some musical equipment, and I bought a bunch of Kingdom Death stuff. And I was like, I haven't ever built a model. I haven't ever painted. I don't know where to go.
And
And I've
Kingdom
been
Death is the hardest. You picked the hardest to start with.
all my friends are like, you dive into the deep end on everything. I'm like, yeah, I don't like the beginner steps. Like it's all or nothing with me, because if I can't do the hard stuff, then what's the point? But your streams and your videos were really helpful starting off, and I was wondering if you had any insight on how Kingdom Death became a real pivotal point for your online personality, because it seems to be a huge part of what you do.
So I'm a nerd, just like, you know, a lot of miniature painters. So I really geek out and get really into things just like everybody else. And so Kingdom Death started out, it was the first one that I ever bought was the sci-fi promo that they were giving away. I think it was, no, it wasn't given away, but it was like on sale at Gen Con. And I went up to Poots. I don't think I realized who he was at the time. He's the owner of the company, and I told him, I said, you know, I love the fact that she's got big hips and she's great and everything, but when are we going to have some sexy male models?
Right?
And he got really excited, and he was like, actually, we've been thinking about this. And that sold me, because he was the first person who took me seriously, who was on board. And I was like, okay. And then I found out that they actually had some concept art, and they were teasing the community with that, and I was like, oh my gosh, he was serious, you
Yeah.
know. And
Is that
so
the guy who very slender, six packs, and I can't remember his name, but they did a bust out of him first, I think.
no, it was a different one, but yeah, it was like they did do a bust later of a different one, but since then they've come out with a bunch of, you know, male pinups, and he nailed it for me. And so I was like, but before that, so then a friend of mine had the game, and she wasn't painting it or doing anything with it. She didn't even remember ordering it. Like, and I was like, so what are you gonna do with that game? And she's like, I don't know, do you want it? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, how much? And she told me a price, and it was like dirt cheap. And I was like, yeah, give it to me now. And so she sent it to me, and it sat in my studio for a while. And then when we went to Gen Con, my husband's like, let's demo this game. And then that was when it really took off, because we started to play it. And then I became a moderator of the By Lanterns Like Facebook group. And I'm whole hog, like big time.
You're in it. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you bringing the artistic nature to these models, because, like I said, your skin tones are like some of the best, and like there's only like one other person who I think has the same sort of like character in the flesh, and it's like Roman Lapat seems to do a very similar thing color-wise as you do, and I strive for that sort of well, I suck at like doing the dramatic contrast thing. I'm still not as confident in that. I love like how you're like, and I'm going to like we need some more blood in the elbows and the knees, and so you do these little touches that are like things that I never would have considered, and especially not coming from an art background or having much experience. To me, it's just it's fantastic watching your process on that, and just thank you for being so open with your process, because that I think that you can teach so much more by just being like not hiding everything behind a paywall. I think that there's something really altruistic about that I like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I use my teaching as a way to draw more people in, but the truth is like the best way people can support me is to commission me,
Of
because
course.
that's what I really want to do. I want to paint. I want to make my art make my living through my art, and I like teaching, but it's just a vehicle to do what I want to do, and so
Of course.
I don't want to ever have to put a paywall up. And I know like everyone else does, but I still need people to commission me.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about that, because you do a bunch of different levels. Like I've seen you do like, I'm doing tabletop models. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this high thing. And how do you differentiate that, and also come up with your process for charging for that?
Well, right now I just have 2 levels, because I can't really do a really low tabletop level, because I'll get really bored, and I will hate my life. And so
Right there with you.
yeah, so I still need to be stimulated. So I have kind of my speed painted, which is still really, really good, but it's half the cost of my what I call my real level. Like I have the level, of thing I want to paint to a high level, and then I have kind of the super fast shortcutted version of that, which is, like I said, still good, but it's not. I don't take as many steps. I don't really get as creative with it, and so they can still have a Shoshified mini, and on a little bit better budget.
That's really awesome, and I appreciate that, because it seems like a lot of people don't do that. It's just like, I do this thing and that's it. And so that's cool that you give some options. But you do still teach classes, and that was a thing that when Adepticon got canceled, I was really bummed. Even though I missed out on getting into your class, I was hoping to run into you so I could get like 5 minutes of you saying, I like to paint minis, you should do it more, or whatever, and I was wondering, what are classes like for you in that sort of situation, and what sort of loss do you feel that it is for the community not having it this year?
Well, I mean, for me, like I put all my classes on my Twitch channel, so really it's a boon. I mean, I always do anyway, because so when I teach a class, I want to make sure that person is getting their money. They get the added bonus of having that one-on-one personal touch, and being able to meet me, and be able to have that teacher-student vibe, and then it's a relationship at that point, right? And then they can contact me later. But I always put everything I'm teaching online prior to even going to the class, because I want to make sure that, because you go to con, you've got a million things going on. You might you might go get drunk with your friends after the big tournament. Something might happen. You don't remember everything you learned in that class, but I want to make sure that they have a way to, to keep that info that I gave them. So I have the video. They can go reference that. They can go watch it as much as they want. And then it's up there for people who can't make it either.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Because yeah, I always find that there's so much. It feels like getting better in the hobby is always like all you need is that one person to get you past that hump, and it feels like that hump can be an impassable mountain at times because so much of this is locked at cons or locked behind Patreon. And it's nice to know that you feel that it should be open knowledge, and because yeah, that one-on-one time is, I think, super important of it.
It really is. People learn better when they can connect with the teacher, and you're just going to do that in person, period, better than you're going to do it online. So
Yeah,
I know that me putting my stuff online is never going to deter people from wanting to take a class with me, so I don't have any problems with it. I don't feel like I need to have a paywall in order to draw a class.
right. No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever take those videos and condense them down to like YouTube videos? I mean, like, as much as I love the banter, watching a stream from like 3 weeks ago, it feels so weird, like trying to navigate it. And so, like, I really only do like hobbying for a long time or something,
If I ever get enough commissions where I can hire an editor, sure. But I mean, commission me so that if you want, I hate editing. I don't want to get better at editing. I want to get better at painting. So I'm gonna say no until I can hire somebody, and that means more people need to commission me if they want that.
Fair. What we just need is we need like a bunch of miniature painters to find like one person to edit all of their videos. So like we like crowdsource the pain, because yeah, I hate the editing process myself. That's why I like this YouTube Skype conversation, because I just put it on and it takes me 2 minutes. It's fine.
Exactly.
Well, we're getting close to the end of your time here. Do you have any advice or anything you'd like to say to your followers that maybe you don't feel that you get a chance to do in your stream?
Well, I don't know about there's something I don't have a chance to do, but I always just, in any kind of situation like this, I always tell people, paint more, paint often. It's better to paint 15 minutes a day than it is for you to paint 8 hours on a weekend. And Michael Jordan never got good at 3-pointers by only practicing on the weekends.
Right, of course. I think that is good advice in literally any stage of life. Yeah. So,
if you want to be good at something, spend a lot of time on it, and also it's better to have 15 minutes a day, like I said, is still going to level you up faster than 8 hours on one Saturday.
Absolutely. And don't be so narrow-minded about what a competition piece can be. Like, let's expand art form some more, because like I said, when I saw your pieces, it was just like,
oh, good.
Because I was like, it's finally someone who takes that artistic training and is doing it, because I think that they look really good, and it's not saying that you don't do smooth blends. You do amazingly smooth blends, but you have that like beautiful artistic flair to it, and you can almost always pick a Shoshie mini out in a lineup, which I really love. So where should everybody find you? Where should we be? How would you like us to interact with you the most?
So I have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. and they're all at Shoshie's Minis. So if you just search or Google at Shoshie's Minis, it's all one word. That's how you can find me. And so
Perfect.
and any of those, I'll
commissions,
interact with you on any of those. Yeah, commission.
Okay, cool. And there's no special like email to commission thing. Like you can reach out on any of those.
Yeah, just DM me or private message me.
Awesome. That's so cool. Well, Shoshie, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me today. I really appreciate it. Sorry we couldn't meet in person, but I like really this is going to be a highlight of my quarantine. So,
good.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll hop on a stream. Well, I'll see you around.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching another episode of Hobby Time in the Murder Basement. I so appreciate your support. If you could go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, leave a comment, literally do anything that you can to help get this channel a little bit more traction. I'd really, really appreciate it. I hate when channels ask every single episode for this. It becomes mundane and monotonous. So I figured I'd just record one of these. That way you only have to hear me do this once, just at the end of every one of my videos. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.